Chapter 32. By morning, the underground sanctuary had settled into a rhythm of purpose. Isabella stood in the war room, tracking the movements of various pieces on their complex chessboard. She stood slightly forward on the balls of her feet, hands braced against the table and eyes constantly scanning information. The room smelled of fresh coffee, printer ink, and the distinct ozone scent of electronics running constantly, creating an atmosphere reminiscent of trial preparation war rooms she'd known throughout her career. The hum of computer fans created white noise beneath the occasional ping of incoming messages. The rustle of papers being shuffled and the soft murmurs of conversation from pack members delivering updates. The Warren lighting system simulated early morning sunshine with a smooth golden glow that gradually brightened throughout the space. Damon had left at dawn through an infrequently traveled exit, armed with secure communication devices and encrypted files. Now they waited for confirmation that contact had been made with the DOJ. The waiting created a familiar tension Isabella recognized from high-stakes trials. That suspended moment between preparation and action, when doubts could creep in if allowed. "Anything?" Mikhail asked, entering the room with 2 steaming mugs. He handed one to Isabella, who accepted it gratefully. Noting that he'd remembered her preference for black coffee with a dash of cinnamon. His own had the distinctive spiced scent of the herbal tea he favored in the morning. The rich coffee aroma momentarily overpowered the electronic smell of the room, grounding her in the familiar ritual. "Not yet," she replied. She took a sip of coffee, letting the bitter warmth center her. Heat radiated through the ceramic, warming her perpetually cold fingers. "But it's early still." Mikhail moved to stand beside her, studying the evidence wall they'd constructed. She'd become increasingly aware of his proximity, which created a bubble of warmth in the otherwise cool room. His presence a constant anchor amid uncertainty. "You're worried," he observed. The low timbre of his voice raised pleasant goosebumps along her arms despite her concern. It wasn't a question, but she answered anyway, appreciating his directness. There are a lot of moving parts, a lot of ways this could go wrong. She automatically identified potential failure points, Damon being followed, the federal prosecutor being compromised, and evidence being intercepted. The scenarios played out in her mind like a grim chess game, each possible move anticipated and countered. "And yet, you seem more excited than fearful," he observed. His gaze tracked over her face, noting details only he could see. The warm lighting caught the gold flecks in his eyes, making them almost glow. Isabella considered this, surprised to realize he was right. Despite the danger and being hunted, an undeniable energy flowed through her. "I spent my career believing in the system, fighting for justice within its constraints. Now I'm outside it, and I can see its value and flaws more clearly." She turned to face him, finding words for something she'd been processing unconsciously. "Does that make sense?" "Perfect sense," he replied, a rare smile softening his features. It's not unlike when a wolf first transforms, suddenly seeing the world through new senses, understanding both human and wolf perspectives. Harper interrupted their conversation. He entered the room with careful movements, still favoring his injured side. His footsteps were deliberately measured, each placed with conscious effort to minimize pain. His color had improved dramatically from the previous day, suggesting Florian's treatments were working. Despite his condition, He'd tried to restore his normal appearance. His face freshly shaved, hair neatly combed, clothing clean, though borrowed. The detective's ingrained need for order is evident even in crisis. "Detective," Isabella greeted him, surprised to see him on his feet. "Should you be up?" Her tone carried genuine concern beneath the professional detachment. Harper grunted, the sound pure cop stubbornness that Isabella recognized from a dozen crime scenes. "I've been shot before." He dismissed her concern with a wave of his hand. "Besides, sitting around while others fight my battles isn't my style." His posture remained rigid despite obvious pain. He had that distinctive law enforcement stance. Weight evenly distributed, hands visible, constantly assessing surroundings. The borrowed clothes fit him poorly, making him look somehow diminished despite his lean, athletic build. Mikhail gestured to the chair nearest Harper. "At least conserve your strength." The suggestion was delivered politely, but with the subtle undercurrent of authority that Isabella had come to recognize as his alpha voice. Not a command, but certainly an expectation. The detective eyed Mikhail for a beat, but took the offered seat. Pride warred visibly with practicality before the latter won. The chair creaked slightly beneath his weight. "What's our status?" His tone shifted immediately to a professional assessment. "Damon is making contact with the federal prosecutor," Isabella explained, bringing him up to speed quickly. Her words taking on the precise cadence she used for case briefings. "We're preparing multiple channels to release the evidence in case any one route is compromised." Harper nodded, absorbing the information. His face impassive, only his eyes revealing active assessment. "Smart. But you'll need more than just evidence. You'll need witness testimony." "Yours," Isabella agreed, recognizing the value of a decorated detective's sworn statements. Evidence was crucial, but juries responded to human stories. The principle held true, whether in courtrooms or the court of public opinion. "Mine," he confirmed. Shifting slightly to reach into his pocket, not quite concealing a wince at the movement. The bandages beneath his shirt rustled faintly as he moved, and possibly others who were silenced along the way. He withdrew a small notebook from his pocket, flipping it open with practiced ease. The notebook was worn, pages dog-eared. A detective's lifeline, Isabella knew from working with law enforcement for years. "I've been compiling a list of potential witnesses who encountered Victor's activities but were intimidated into silence. Some may be willing to speak now with proper protection." His fingers, still bearing traces of dried blood beneath the nails, despite obvious attempts to clean them, traced each name as he spoke. Mikhail studied the detective with newfound respect, and his assessment was visible in his subtle posture change. "You've been investigating this longer than we realized." Harper's expression hardened. 3 years. Ever since my partner was killed investigating what we thought was a standard homicide. I knew something wasn't right about the case, but every time I pushed, doors slammed shut." His jaw tightened, a muscle working in his cheek. He glanced at Isabella, some of his usual gruffness returning. "That's why I kept you at arm's length when you took the case. I was trying to protect you." "Fat lot of good that did," she replied, but without rancor, a hint of their old professional rapport emerging. "We ended up in the same boat anyway." "A considerably more unusual boat than I anticipated," Harper remarked dryly, his eyes flickering to Mikhail. The tension in the room eased slightly as Katerina entered, her stride purposeful. Sophia followed, laptop cradled protectively against her chest, her short, quick steps contrasting with Katerina's measured pace. The tech specialist's nervous energy seemed heightened this morning, fingers tapping rapid patterns against her computer case. Harper studied both as they entered, with particular focus paid to Katerina. "We have contact," Sophia announced, excitement quickening her already rapid speech pattern. "Damon has reached the federal prosecutor and secured a meeting for noon today." "That's faster than expected," Isabella said, a mixture of relief and anxiety washing through her. She straightened. "Apparently, your reputation precedes you," Sophia replied with a small smile, her fingers flying across her keyboard. The rapid clicking created a background rhythm to their conversation. "When Damon mentioned your name, the prosecutor agreed immediately. Said he never believed the accusations against you." Isabella felt a surprising surge of emotion at this news. After days of being vilified in the press, having her integrity questioned and her career destroyed, the simple fact that someone in the justice system still believed in her struck deeper than expected. Her throat tightened momentarily, professional composure wavering. The war room suddenly felt warmer, the air thicker with possibility. "That's good," she managed, pushing aside sentiment in favor of strategy. "But we need to proceed carefully. The meeting could still be compromised." "Damon is taking precautions," Katerina assured her, moving to study the security feeds displayed on one of the monitors. Her tactical assessment continued even as she spoke, eyes constantly scanning for potential threats. The displays cast her face in a blue-tinted glow, highlighting the predatory sharpness of her features. The meeting location was selected for security and multiple exit routes. She had healed enough from her injuries that she was back in her regular form-fitting tactical base layer of clothing. "We should prepare the evidence package," Isabella said, focusing on the next steps. She had already mentally organized documents in order of persuasive impact. She moved toward the evidence table, her fingers sorting through pages with practiced efficiency. For the next several hours, they meticulously assembled the evidence Harper had collected. Financial records showing bribes to city officials, emails discussing how to handle witnesses to Victor's crimes, security footage from City Hall showing the mayor meeting privately with Victor, and phone records connecting the DA to the conspiracy. Isabella approached the task with the same methodical precision she applied to case preparation, organizing evidence for maximum impact, anticipating defense strategies, and identifying corroborating elements. The room filled with the sounds of their work, papers shuffling, keyboards clicking, occasional soft conversations as points were clarified. The smell of fresh coffee mingled with the faint metallic scent that clung to Harper despite his clean-up attempts. The Warrens' lighting had shifted to midday brightness, casting everything in precise detail that helped their document review. "This is enough to bring down the entire administration," Harper observed as they organized the documents, his detective's eye recognizing the strength of the case they were building. His fingers straightened document edges compulsively, a habit Isabella had seen during trial preparation. "If it reaches the right hands," Isabella cautioned, tempering optimism with realism. "And if we can protect the witnesses long enough for them to testify." She secured a stack of documents with a binder clip. the small metal snap punctuating her words. "My pack can provide security for key witnesses," Mikhail offered, the statement simple, but carrying the weight of an alpha's guarantee. Discreetly, his voice held that quiet certainty that seemed to calm everyone in the room. Harper raised an eyebrow, skepticism written in the gesture. "Werewolf witness protection. That's a new one." The words carried his typical sardonic tone, but Isabella detected a hint of genuine consideration beneath. The detective's practical nature engaging with new possibilities. Katerina arched a brow. More effective than the marshal service. Her hand drifted to the knife at her belt and rested there. "We can detect threats by scent and sound long before they become visible." The detective considered this, his face betraying the internal struggle between law enforcement orthodoxy and practical necessity. After a moment, he nodded reluctantly, practicality winning. "I suppose unconventional problems call for unconventional solutions." The admission seemed to cost him some effort. The secure tablet chimed with an incoming message from Damon, the distinctive alert sound causing everyone's attention to snap toward the device. Isabella picked it up, the screen's glow illuminating her face as she read. "The meeting is set for noon at the federal building. Prosecutor Douglas is bringing a trusted team only. Security measures are in place. I will update you afterward." Isabella read the message aloud, feeling a momentary surge of hope. The room seemed to brighten somehow. "Douglas is good," she told the others. "I've worked with him before, on cross-jurisdictional cases. He's smart, ethical, and ambitious enough to take on a high-profile corruption case." "But can he be trusted with all the evidence?" Mikhail asked, the implied question straightforward. Could Douglas be trusted to look the other way regarding supernatural elements? His protective instinct toward his pack was evident in the slight tension in his shoulders and the way he positioned himself near the evidence with the red markers. "We'll provide only what he needs to build a case against the mayor, chief prosecutor, and judges," Isabella replied, confidence returning as she operated within her area of expertise. "The rest stays with us." The plan continued to take shape. Damon would provide Douglas with the initial evidence package, which would be enough to secure federal interest and protection. Additional evidence would be released strategically to prevent the conspirators from controlling the narrative. Meanwhile, Isabella and Mikhail would prepare for their eventual return to the public eye once the initial arrests were made. As they worked, Isabella found herself watching the interaction between Harper and the werewolves with interest. The detective maintained a professional distance, but his ingrained suspicion was gradually giving way to grudging respect, particularly for Sophia's analytical skills and Katerina's tactical knowledge. The latter werewolf's severe beauty didn't seem to hurt either. She noticed how Harper initially tensed when werewolves moved too quickly near him, but by mid-morning, he was leaning over maps beside Katerina without being stiffly guarded in her proximity. His body language had shifted subtly, the wariness never completely absent, but no longer his dominant reaction. During a brief break, Isabella found herself alone with Harper as he studied the Warren's layout with professional curiosity. He visually catalogued exits, security measures, population distribution, an automatic assessment she recognized from crime scenes. His fingers traced over the laminated map, leaving faint smudges on the glossy surface. "You're adapting to all this remarkably well," she observed, gesturing vaguely to encompass their supernatural surroundings. Harper glanced at her, a hint of his dry humor returning. You mean that shapeshifters have been living among us undetected for centuries? Or that I'm currently hiding in their secret underground lair, days after one tried to eat me? His voice carried that characteristic blend of weariness and sarcasm that made him effective with difficult witnesses, disarming through bluntness. Both, I suppose. She leaned against the wall, studying his reaction with genuine curiosity. The cool concrete pressed against her shoulder blades. He was quiet for a moment, and the detective's careful consideration was evident in his expression. After 20 years on the force, you develop a certain flexibility in your worldview. His voice took on the reflective quality she'd rarely heard from him. You see things that defy explanation. Eventually, you learn to trust evidence over assumptions. His gaze drifted to where Mikhail stood across the room, conferring quietly with Darius. The evidence says Volkov and his pack have been protecting this city from creatures like Victor far more effectively than the police ever could. That's surprisingly open-minded of you, Isabella said, genuinely impressed by the admission from someone she'd always considered pretty by the book. Harper shrugged, wincing slightly at the movement that pulled at his healing wound. Don't mistake pragmatism for acceptance. I'm still processing, but I know the difference between predators and protectors. He fixed her with a direct look, detective's perceptiveness focusing entirely on her face. So do you, or you wouldn't be here. Before she could respond, Sophia called them back to the central table, where a new message from Damon had appeared on the secure tablet. The screen's glow cut through the ambient light, creating a focal point that drew everyone's attention. Potential complication. Douglas wants to meet Isabella directly before proceeding further. Says, witness testimony crucial to case strength, suggests secure location tomorrow, his team only. Not, Mikhail said immediately, his posture stiffening, protective instinct evident in every line of his body. The alpha emerged fully in his stance, shoulders squared, chin slightly raised, voice carrying unquestionable authority. The temperature in the room seemed to drop several degrees with his pronouncement. Or perhaps that was simply the effect of his sudden, focused intensity. We need Douglas's cooperation, Isabella countered. She stepped forward, unconsciously taking the position she would in front of a hostile judge. Without federal protection, this evidence might never see the light of day. Or it could be another trap, Katerina warned. She stepped over to Mikhail's side. Harper considered the dilemma. Douglas's reputation is solid, but even solid people can be compromised under the right pressure. His voice carried the weight of someone who'd seen too many good people break under sufficient duress. Isabella paced the length of the table. We'll verify Douglas's trustworthiness before I meet with him. How? Sophia asked, fingers nervously tapping against her laptop case. The rapid drumming created a counterpoint to Isabella's measured steps. A preliminary test, Isabella decided, her strategy forming as she spoke. Damon provides Douglas with a small but significant piece of evidence today. Something that would prompt immediate action if he's legitimate. And if he's compromised? Mikhail asked, concern evident in his voice. His eyes tracked her movement with protective intensity. His body remained coiled with tension, ready to reject any plan that placed her at risk. Then nothing happens. Or the wrong people are alerted, Isabella replied, completing the logical chain. Either way, we'll know before I put myself at risk. Mikhail studied her for a long moment before nodding slowly, alpha authority yielding to strategic sense. What evidence would serve as this test? Isabella turned to Harper. The recording of the chief prosecutor discussing my elimination with the mayor. It's damning, time-stamped, and impossible to ignore if Douglas is legitimate. Harper nodded in agreement, professional assessment aligning with hers. Clear evidence of conspiracy to murder a state DA. Any legitimate federal attorney would have to act on that immediately.